that was it. I was done at that point. I fell out of love. I was just, you know what? This isn't worth my time anymore. This is what happened. Hey there everyone, it's Lindy. Welcome back to my channel. Today, I am going to tell you guys the 5 reasons I am no longer going to be selling full-time on eBay. So my plan with this video is to kind of start with the lowest offending annoyances that I have with the platform and kind of build it up to the biggest cluster bomb that has made me say, you know what, I'm kind of tired of this. I'm gonna go do something else. While I think that eBay is an okay platform to sell on occasionally, it's just not worth my time putting as much effort in as I once did because I got other options out there that bring in a lot more money a lot more quickly. Enough chit chat, let's get into the meat of the video, the 5 reasons why I'm walking away. The first offense, pulling down items for seemingly no reason at all. Invalid reasons or no reason given at all. The listings are just not there anymore. First, let me talk about the listings no longer being there. So I do a members only live with my YouTube channel members a few times a month, and it's one of the things that we've talked about in the past when I was really looking to shift my reselling business away from the eBay platform, and that was that I was starting to notice that more and more of my listings were just vanishing off of the platform. I actually only started noticing when I was making a conscious effort to pull eBay listings down and sell them elsewhere just because I was simply tired of them not selling. Well, lo and behold, they weren't selling because they weren't even on the platform anymore. So I started going to each of my inventory shelves and I was taking an item and I was searching my eBay store for it so that I could remove the quantity to then sell it on another platform. But much to my surprise, a lot of these items were not even listed on eBay anymore. So while I will say sometimes there are circumstances when maybe you would have accepted an offer and then somebody wouldn't have paid and then you have to actually go relist the item or go replenish the quantity. That way that item is continuing available for sale on eBay. It's, you know, seller error in those circumstances where, you know, you accepted an offer, they didn't pay, and so it was up to you to go replenish the stock so that it could sell, and you just didn't. Well, let me just put it this way. It's been way too many items for it to have been seller error. I don't get that many offers on items that don't get paid for. I'm talking, I pulled 10 items off of a shelf one day and none of them were on the platform anymore. They were no longer on the eBay platform. And I know for damn sure those items never got offers. They never even came close to selling, which was why I was looking to pull them down off of the site to begin with. So that became a real annoyance to me. It's this whole idea of wondering, is my item still even available for sale on eBay, or did eBay just remove my listing for some strange reason? Could have been a glitch. You know, I remember a couple of years ago, right after an eBay update, a lot of sellers were having images switched on their listings. It was kind of one of those things like, are you freaking kidding me? I have 2 items that are completely different, but the images are swapped. That was clearly an eBay glitch. It was happening to too many sellers for it to just be, you know, seller error. And so I have to wonder if this is some sort of a glitch or if it's something in eBay's back end that just simply removes listings for maybe creating space in the algorithm. Maybe if there's, you know, in the back end of eBay, this is just me speculating. I don't know. This is just me speculating. This is speculation, Lindy, trying to come up with a reason why eBay would do this to sellers. Maybe if there reaches one too many listings in eBay's back end of a certain category, the oldest listings will just start to fall off. That's the first thing that just like popped into my brain. Like for instance, refrigerator filters. Maybe eBay's back end, like the data, their back end, all of the technical computery kind of things. Maybe in eBay's back end, the site can handle 1 million refrigerator filter listings. And once it hits that 1 million listing mark, eBay just starts like knocking off the oldest listings to create room for the newer ones that are piling on. Does that make sense? Because that makes sense in my head. It makes sense in my head that in eBay's back end, there has to be some sort of a threshold that eBay has to say, okay, this is way too many refrigerator filters. There's, you know, 999,000 refrigerator filters that have been listed for more than a year, and we have new refrigerator filters coming onto the site, so therefore these older ones we're just gonna knock off. I don't know if it's something like that. I don't know if it's something about, you know, refresh glitches, because now everything is good till canceled. I don't know if there's glitches when an item reaches a certain amount of time, maybe the 6-month mark, maybe the year mark, where something auto renews one too many times and then eBay just, you know, pulls it off the website. I don't know, but it's extremely frustrating because a lot of the times eBay sellers were accustomed to putting an item on the platform and then you just list it and forget it, right? It's kind of like, you know, that old infomercial. You set it and forget it. It was that way with eBay. You know, you list it, you put it on the platform, and you just simply wait for it to sell. But it seems like more and more lately, at least in my case, those listings just aren't even on eBay anymore. They're just gone. They're just nowhere. Beyond that, there's also something to be said about listings being removed because of policy violations that you didn't even realize you were violating any sort of policy. Now, I don't have any listings in my head to give you an example of, but so many times I will get these emails from eBay saying listing removed, policy violation, or listing removed, Vero, listing removed. And so eBay notifies me that a listing is being removed and it's made clear, but it's not really made clear. You know, sometimes it's a policy violation that I'm not even violating, but it's not even really worth my time and energy calling eBay to complain about it because I don't know if it's bots, AI, whatever. eBay's just pulling listings down for what they suspect is a real policy violation, even if it's not a policy violation. I don't know. It's just getting annoying. And this is actually something that I was talking to my dad about too. We kind of chuckled about it because we literally said at the same time, you can't sell anything on eBay anymore because everything just gets pulled down for the most random things. And don't even get me started on the Vero program. The Vero program is completely, what word am I trying to think of? Inconsistent. It's extremely inconsistent. There's supposedly this Vero list that is out there, but yet I have been flagged for brands for Vero that aren't even on the list. And when I've contacted eBay about this, they just simply tell me that the Vero list is ever changing and they can't always keep it updated with the most recent list of names. So how are we as sellers supposed to know whether or not we're violating Vero policy when a lot of these brands aren't even on the list? And then a lot of the brands that are on the list are a different name. For instance, I'm just gonna make something up. I remember one time I got a Vero for Chi hair straightener, but Chi hair straighteners weren't on the Vero list. It was actually under something like Baltimore hair accessories. I'm just making this up. This is not what it actually was. But I remember calling eBay and saying, how am I violating this Vero because Chi is not on it? And they're like, oh, well, Chi is listed under this other business name. And I'm like, well, how in the hell am I supposed to know that? And I'm sorry I'm getting very loud and screechy, but this is why I'm annoyed. How are we supposed to know the deep down distributor names for all of these brands that we're selling in order to keep from violating Vero? It just doesn't make any sense. And this is gonna be a long video if I go on and on about every single reason as long as I did that one. So I'm gonna try to speed up. The second reason is the decrease in impressions and the constant need to feel like you have to promote your listings in order to even be seen on the eBay platform. So for a year or more, there has been a lot of eBay sellers that have noticed a serious decrease in impressions and views of their eBay listings. And I had always suspected that this was going to be inevitably the thing that we would have to be concerned about as soon as eBay rolled out promoted listings. Because promoted listings was a way for eBay sellers to essentially buy buy their way into a higher placing on the active listings list, to get that sponsored post where your listing would appear on other people's listings as a sponsored ad. Or you could jump the active listings list if you paid for a higher percentage of promoted listings. And it's just something I never really liked. You know, years ago, I even did an experiment to see what would happen to my store if I started promoting my listings, and it actually didn't even do my store any good. And what I just don't like about it is that there is this idea that the more you promote, like the higher percentage you give to eBay for promoting your listing, the higher placement you're going to have. So if you have 100 sellers all selling the exact same thing, they're all basically having to gouge each other by percentage to try to get above everybody else on the list. And that just makes me feel icky. Like, it gives me an ick feeling, like high ratings of ick when it comes to eBay, that I'm gonna have to basically promote away all of my potential profits just to even be seen on the platform. Now, this may or may not be true. This is just how I, as a seller, perceive this. It just gives me major ick vibes. I don't like it. There's a lot of sellers out there I know that they only promote 2 to 5% just to, you know, get some favor in the eBay algorithm. And while that might be fine with them, not all sellers can literally afford to do that. Some sellers are dealing with things like race to the bottom, which I'm going to get that's in my notes. That's in my notes. I'm already starting to skip ahead. But there's a lot of sellers that only have so much profit to make. And if they're forced to promote their listing just to be seen by customers, what the hell is the point of even selling it if all of your profit's gonna be paid to eBay just to get your item moving? I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like it. Never liked it, and I really don't like it now. And that brings me to the third reason. It's the constant needing to please the eBay algorithm. So you're needing to please the eBay algorithm with things like paying for promoted listings, running markdowns, constant activity. I used to preach that on my channel all the time, and it is still true. I'm not saying that I'm not, you know, preaching something that's inaccurate. An active store is a happy store. That's what I've said for years. In order to appease the eBay gods, you have to essentially be the most active seller you can. You have to be accepting offers, countering offers, sending offers, running markdowns, doing promoted listings, be refreshing your listings, making adjustments, changing your prices, editing your photos, switching your titles around, making sure that your titles are just the way that eBay wants them. You're basically having to stroke eBay's ego in order to get any sort of favoritism in their algorithm at all. And even then, you might still end up on page 8 or 20 or 200. And the problem with this is, if you find yourself putting so much active energy into trying to appease the eBay gods, you're running out of time for doing anything else. And while some might argue that it doesn't take a lot of time to batch relist items or go in and batch edit prices to try to, you know, change it up a little bit, to go in and raise your prices by a penny or lower your prices by a penny, or go in and swap a few keywords around. It only takes 90 seconds to start a markdown sale or promote a few listings. That time adds up, and most of the time, the things that you're needing to do to appease this eBay algorithm results in you making less money. It results in running a markdown sale to sell your item for less, to promote your listings, to pay more of a percentage to eBay when your item sells, therefore taking money out of your pocket. Sending offers to buyers, so that means you're taking less for your item. And yes, you can increase your price in order to do all of these things. It's not illegal to do that. You could go in and raise all of your prices 50% to then lower them 30% just to appease the eBay algorithm. But damn, that is a lot of freaking work. I am getting way too busy to constantly have to figure out what I need to do to maybe get seen on the platform. And then the fourth reason why I'm looking to step away from eBay is the constant race to the bottom competitive pricing, coupled with the increase in Chinese knockoffs and international sellers overtaking the platform from those of us that are here in the US that are just trying to make a little bit of money. You know, I wanted to buy myself some new clothes for summer because I haven't really done a lot of clothes shopping for myself lately. And I'm like, you know what? I want to support some eBay sellers. So I searched for women's jumpsuits on eBay. And it took me 2 pages before I saw a third-party seller like myself in any listings. It was all Temu, China, cheap, fast fashion bullcrap that I didn't want. I don't want to pay $7 for a jumpsuit that I'm gonna have to wait for 6 weeks to be delivered from China. I was trying to see, and yes, I know, you can go in and you can switch the location to US only. I was trying to support other sellers like me by shopping their stores. But I am just getting inundated with these cheap, fast fashion, China knockoff crap that's gonna take 6 to 8 weeks for delivery. And even when I switched the location to the United States, it still gives me that same crap. It's just the crap that's like Temu, you know, where it's like based out of California and it's gonna take a little less time than direct from China, but it's still the same kind of stuff, you know what I mean? I just feel like the Chinese sellers and the knockoff crap just gets so much more in your face than the way it used to be. The way it used to be, it was third-party sellers that were just, you know, selling stuff on the platform. Now it's big box companies and the international companies selling things for dirt cheap. That's what shows up on the platform first. And it's really hard to compete with that, especially in a time where everybody is shopping based on price. So if competing with these international companies for items that cost only a few dollars with free shipping, if that wasn't hard enough, there's the race to the bottom aspect where sellers feel like they have to race for the bottom in order to sell their merchandise because they're competing with not only other sellers, but they're competing with these international stores that have hundreds of thousands of items available for sale for pennies on the dollar. But those 4 reasons are nothing new. They're nothing new. That's all stuff that we've all been dealing with on eBay for years and years and years. And they are things that we've just had to learn to navigate. Am I right? Just every time there's, you know, an eBay update, we all clench our fists and grind our teeth and hope that there's not a glitch that affects our bottom line. It was the 5th thing. The 5th thing that happened that made me say, you know what? This isn't worth my time anymore. This is what happened. eBay changed its feedback removal policy. eBay no longer does any sort of courtesy removals. eBay, in my opinion, no longer uses common sense when it comes to negative feedbacks affecting a seller's rating. Let me tell you what happened to me and what made me so angry about this new feedback policy that they have. And I feel like the reason why it hit me so hard was because I had 2 instances happen in 1 week. Back in December, I accepted an offer on an item, 30-pack of disposable lab coats. I got it in a truckload. It was this big box. It was factory sealed. It had never been opened. And because I knew that there was 30 disposable lab coats inside, I knew if I ever attempted to open this box, number 1, I could cut some of the lab coats. And number 2, I would probably not get all of those lab coats back in the box. It'd be kind of one of those situations where you open the box and it's like, poof, there, they all fall out. You know what I mean? So therefore, I left it factory sealed, 30-pack disposable coats. I scanned the Amazon barcode that was on there and it brought me the exact Amazon listing. So I was able to build an eBay listing off of the Amazon listing, and I did use a stock photo to show what the coat looked like because there was no way I was going to get a picture of the lab coats in a factory sealed box. It was a $10 offer. I was originally asking like $30 or $40 on this box, so roughly $1 a lab coat plus the cost of shipping. So the customer buys it, they pay for it, I ship it, and I think everything is fine. But then come in January, I get this message from the buyer asking if I had more photos of the outside of the box. And I'm just thinking to myself, why? Why do you need photos of every side of the box? I simply had 2 photos. I had this side of the box and this side of the box. The sides of the box that actually made sense for photographing. It was the parts of the box that actually had the SKU number, the size, you know, all of the important information you would need to know what you were buying. I didn't take photos of the bottom of the box or the top of the box or the side of the box that had literally no print on it at all. That made no sense to me. And when I responded, no, the only photos of the box that I had were the ones that were in the listing, why do you ask? The guy says it's because the box was ripped open during transit and all of the contents inside were destroyed. So he was telling me that the post office wanted proof that the box was completely sealed before I sent it so that he could file a claim to get his money back. I then told him, no, the box was completely sealed. Don't have any more pictures. I didn't say this, but I'm thinking, and frankly, I don't believe you. And so I started asking him for pictures of the damage. I said, you know, can you send me a photo of the box being ripped open? Can you send me a photo of the damaged content so that I can see what you're talking about? And he told me he couldn't send me those things because the post office kept the box to file the claim, which made no sense to me. I've never ever heard of a post office keeping the package to investigate for a claim. So then I didn't hear anything from the guy. I figured that, you know, he was just kind of fishing for a refund, and when I didn't immediately offer to give him one, that he was just going to let it go and I was gonna let sleeping dogs lie. I wasn't gonna ask him about it. I wasn't gonna follow up. I was just gonna leave it alone. A few weeks after that, he sent me another message letting me know that the post office determined that it was my fault that the items were destroyed because it was improperly packaged. Okay. But he knew that he wasn't going to be getting his money back because I had made it perfectly clear I was not going to refund him. So I then responded to him something like, I asked you for proof of damage. I'm not going to refund you unless I see proof of damage. If I can't see proof of damage, I am going to assume that it arrived in the condition that I sent it in. And then I heard nothing from him until I received a negative feedback. So that's story number 1. This second eBay buyer purchased a very, very large printer from me. It was a huge HP printer. It was valued at almost $600 on Amazon and I sold it for $350 on best offer. So this printer, I really wasn't able to test it. We powered it up. We made sure that, you know, it at least got power. It looked clean. It didn't look like there was anything wrong with it, and we listed it for sale. So a brand new version of this printer on Amazon was $600. So I listed mine for $499, stating that it was open box. Someone sent me a $350 offer, which I accepted. This buyer paid for it. I sent it. It was about $50 to ship it because, like I said, it was a huge printer. So after the printer arrives to the customer sends me a message that says, this printer is not new. It has been used before. I want a $100 partial refund. So if you can do the math, that would mean that this printer would get marked down to $250 if I give them a $100 partial refund, which I was willing to do, because if this printer was in used condition and it wasn't in the condition that I had originally listed it in, that is my bad. And I told the customer that. I responded to the customer, I'm really sorry. We didn't realize that it was previously used. It looked like it was still new in the box. It was just an open box product. I will gladly give you a $100 refund. He almost immediately responded back with, the printer doesn't work. I'm returning for a full refund. Okay, fine. Maybe he went to go use it and realized it didn't work. Send it back. If it doesn't work, again, that is on me. I told him I wasn't able to fully test it, so I was perfectly willing to accept it as a return and give him a 100% full refund, including his original shipping cost. Full well knowing that I was going to have to pay the $50 that he had originally paid me in shipping, refunded back to him. I was gonna have to pay the $50 to get it back to me, and I was going to be out the original $50 that I paid to ship it. So he sent me the printer back, and I immediately refunded him every penny that he ever paid me. And that was the last that I had heard from him until I got a negative feedback. So both of these customer stories that I just told you, both ended up leaving me negative feedback within 3 days of each other. So the first one, the first guy, the annoying one that bought the 30 pack of disposable lab coats, what his negative feedback said was, and I'll try to stick it right here, suggestion to ask for all sides of product and pics of their product before purchasing, not just stock pictures, to avoid wasting time and money on open, damaged products. So that was the first negative feedback that came through that week. And while it got under my skin, I didn't feel a sense of urgency to immediately call eBay to have them remove it. I was like, in the moment, I was really busy and I was just gonna deal with it later. But then the second negative feedback came in about 3 days later from the gentleman who bought the printer. And that one said, this was an old used printer with blown drum, far from new. Fraud. Literally put the word fraud in my feedback comment. So I thought that that was a reason to call eBay immediately. And I thought, you know what? I'll just kill 2 birds with 1 stone, easy peasy. Because I figured that with my history of selling on eBay and the fact that the buyer used the word fraud when they had gotten a 100% full refund, I figured that that would be reason enough for eBay to take it down. Well, now here I sit, so you could probably guess what happened. I do have eBay Concierge. It's something that I was enrolled in for attending consecutive years at eBay Open, so I am fortunate enough to have eBay Concierge, so I was able to get a hold of a customer service rep right away. So when I got on the phone with eBay customer service, I told them about the feedback issue, and they instructed me to go on the website and apply through the computer to have it removed, which this was something they had never told me I had to do before. I knew that it was an option, but it was never like, you must do this in order to have your feedback removed. So they had basically told me that this was a new policy and I was going to have to first submit the feedback request through the website before anybody, like a real person, could take a look at it. So that's exactly what I did. I submitted, you know, my report through the eBay website and said, I want to have this removed. I'm requesting removal for both of the feedbacks. And of course, they were both denied. So what the first eBay rep had instructed me was once I, you know, request the feedback removal through the website, I can then call back and they can have someone look into it a little bit more closely if it was denied, which it was. So I then called eBay back and they told me that the reason why the feedback removal requests were denied was because the feedback that was left was not violating any policies that qualified it for feedback removal. So I told him, okay. I said, okay, the first guy, I understand. I can kind of wrap my head around that. You know, someone is entitled to their opinion. They felt like I sent them damaged product. I get it. But wouldn't that constitute the courtesy feedback removal? And eBay informed me that that was no longer a thing. They don't do courtesy feedback removals anymore, which I think is a bunch of baloney, especially for a seller that's been on the platform for nearly 2 decades. So I kind of threw, you know, a little hissy fit at first, but then I moved on to the second feedback because I figured that one would surely constitute a removal if a real life person read it, because they called me a fraud. Not only did they call me a fraud, but they called me a fraud after receiving a 100% refund of all of their money. However, much to my surprise, calling me a fraud was not violating any policies, and they would not remove that one either. So I was very blunt with eBay. I was very, very upset on the phone. I asked to immediately be transferred to either a superior representative or to some sort of a management member, because I was essentially not gonna let it drop, because being called a fraud in my feedback it's more than just my feedback percentage dropping. It's someone going to read why my feedback percentage has dropped and seeing that I am a quote fraud, when I am not a fraud. They got all their money back. I even admitted to them it was an honest mistake. I thought that the printer was new. I had no idea that it was used and broken. We powered it up. It looked to me like it was going to operate to full functionality. We just simply didn't hook it up and use it for our own purposes in order to test it out. I immediately apologized. I didn't know that it was used. I didn't know that it was broken. And I said, send it back. I will give you every penny that you paid me as a refund. But yet they called me a fraud, and eBay allows it to stand. It did end up escalating, and I was transferred to what they said was a supervisor. Whether or not it actually was a supervisor, I will never know. But that person ended up resending it to, I forget what the team is that deals with the feedback removals. It's not the health and safety team. I'm not sure. But the supervisor, whoever it was, resent it. And I sat on hold for a while they looked at it, and then came back and said, sorry, we can't remove it. And it was at that point I became verbally angry with eBay, and I literally asked them if they were recording the message, because I wanted everything that I said to be recorded. I said, I want it to be heard how displeased I am with this new feedback removal system that you guys have put into place. And I did apologize to the eBay rep I was talking to. I said, you know what? I know this is not your fault. I know that you did not, create this policy, but I am going to voice my aggravation to you, since I know I'm being recorded, and I want it on record how much I despise this new feedback removal policy that eBay has decided to enact for some ungodly reason. They heard me out, they let me vent, and I know that it wasn't going to do anything. I knew that they weren't going to, change their new policy just because LINDEYGLENN decided to throw a hissy fit over the phone. But it made me feel better to voice my concerns directly to them and know that I was maybe going to be heard, and that maybe if enough eBay sellers complained about this, that it might actually do something. But as of right now, it has not done jack diddly squat, because it's still the same feedback removal policy that it was when I was dealing with this whole issue. And it was after dealing with this entire feedback removal issue and speaking with eBay on the phone and hearing how unwilling they were to help, that was kind of the final straw for me. That was it. I was done at that point. I fell out of love. I was just nope, done, ready to move on. I even talked with the eBay rep and I told them, you guys see in my history, I have been a seller for nearly 2 decades, right? And he says, yes ma'am, we know. And I said, this buyer called me a fraud, and you are willing to leave it up when they got a full refund. And I have been a loyal seller for nearly 2 decades. You're allowing a buyer to call me a fraud where everybody can see it. And they told me, well, you can go in and respond to it. Oh gee, that's gonna make up for it. That's gonna make all the difference. So I did respond. I did respond to both of them. The guy that bought the 30 pack of disposable lab coats, I responded back to the negative feedback. I responded Buyer never sent any proof of any damage. Claimed the post office took possession of the item to do an investigation. As far as we are concerned, the buyer just wanted a refund that they didn't receive and wanted to keep the item. Proof of damage requested multiple times and buyer never complied. So that was what I said to the first one. The second one, this was admittedly an honest mistake. Buyer returned at no cost to them and received a full refund. Not sure why they left a negative feedback after receiving all of their money back. And that's the thing. I still to this day don't understand why eBay didn't see it being necessary or common sense to remove a negative feedback where the buyer was financially satisfied. The buyer returned it at no cost to them. They were made whole. The buyer was made whole. I, however, was out $150 in total shipping expenses, and I got a negative feedback for it. Where is the justice? There is none. There is no justice for sellers on eBay anymore, and that's why I'm just not doing it anymore. I'm done. I'm done with it. So all of this is to say, moving forward, I am focusing all of my reselling energy on other platforms, and I do have other videos planned that I just need to, you know, basically map out, sit down and film, where I discuss the other benefits to other platforms, not eBay. You know, I do think that there has been a shift in how items are sold online. I feel like there's other platforms out there that are just better for resellers than eBay now. I mean, that being said, there are still items that I do think would be best served on eBay, but those are items that are afterthoughts. They're just kind of like, oh, well, I guess I could put that on eBay, or, oh, that item needs a special audience, and that audience is probably on eBay. But for the bulk of my reselling, I'm putting my energy elsewhere, because those 5 things that I just told you about, I'm just over it. I'm over it. Done. I'm done. Punching out. I'm done. So now this is where I ask you to let me know what you think down in the comments below. Whether it's good or bad, let me have it, seriously. This was kind of my way to rant and vent my feelings about what I've been experiencing with eBay lately. Let me know. Do you feel the same way? Do you think that I'm just being a whiny crybaby? Tell me. I can handle it. Trust me, I can handle it. Do I deserve the negative feedbacks? Maybe. I don't think so. Maybe you think I do. Are you still selling on eBay? If not, why did you leave? What platforms did you switch to? Are you gonna be an eBay ride or die until the end of time? Let me know why. Tell me why eBay is going to be your ride or die platform, regardless of what I've, you know, expressed in concerns today. But regardless of whatever you choose to tell me down in the comments below, I do appreciate you watching this video and listening to me rant and vent, because this is kind of like therapy for me, and it kind of reinvigorates my feelings from time to time. So I definitely appreciate you being here. You know, I would definitely appreciate a thumbs up on this video before you leave, because we talked about eBay algorithms. Well, the YouTube has an algorithm too, and it kind of pisses me off sometimes, because you gotta hit that thumbs up. Otherwise, the algorithm thinks you don't like me. So I appreciate it if you hit that thumbs up button, because the YouTube algorithm really likes it, and I love you for it. Don't forget to check the video description. I always put a lot of useful information in there, as well as the link to my website, to the link for my Facebook business page where I sell items that I find in liquidation or doing retail arbitrage. So if you want to see how I sell items on Facebook, you can check out my business Facebook page there. I do also ship items on my business Facebook page now, so if you see anything you're interested in, that's where you can find all of my liquidation stuff. And lastly, please remember to subscribe if you haven't already. I have noticed that I've been losing subscribers left and right, and I thought it was just because y'all were a little bit pissed at me for taking such a long break. But then I noticed that I was personally unsubscribed from a lot of YouTubers that I personally follow, and so I have to wonder if it's a YouTube thing going on right now. So please definitely check to make sure that you are subscribed if you thought you were subscribed. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please consider it. I would appreciate you hanging around with me. We could be friends. We could be besties. But thank you again so much for watching. I really appreciate your time, and I will see you guys on the next one.